What's up, everybody? This is Rich with Lifetime Shred. I hope everything's good out there. It's winter here in Utah, and we're not wakeboarding, which has cross-training on my mind. How do I stay in shape in the winter so that when the spring hits, I can get out wakeboarding quickly and not feel weak? So I don't think there's anything better for wakeboarding than wakeboarding itself, but that's not an option. So one of the activities that I like to do in the winter that I think is a great cross-training tool for wakeboarding, and it's pretty fun, is going to the climbing gym, going rock climbing. So in this video, I'm going to talk about, the basics of getting into rock climbing, why I think it's good for wakeboarders, the gear you're going to need, and just some of the mindset that I get out of rock climbing that I think also transcends into wakeboarding, especially cable wakeboarding. So let's get into it. So let's just say you've decided you want to get into climbing as a good cross-training tool for wakeboarding or for any other reason. You get to the gym and you're going to see, different types of walls. Some people are going to have ropes connected to them. Some people are not. And these are all different disciplines of climbing that exist at the gym. And I think they all have different pros and cons that you might want to weigh out. In terms of the simplest form of climbing, I would say it's what's called bouldering. These are people on the shorter walls, maybe it's 10, 12, maybe up to about 15 feet off the ground at the very top. And they do not have a rope connected to them. The only piece of gear you really need for bouldering is a pair of climbing shoes. You can rent those at the gym. Usually it's probably under $10 to do that for a day if you want to try it out. And in this case, you're just climbing up. There's no rope attached. There's a big pad underneath that's probably, a 1.5 feet thick or so. So if you fall, you shouldn't get majorly injured. But you're looking to climb up the wall on holds that are one color and get to the top. And then I would actually argue also climb down those holds as well, or at least climb down the wall as much as possible. I will say one of the negatives to bouldering that I experienced, if you fall high up from the wall down quite often, especially if you land with your knees locked out at all, you can cause some knee damage. I had a case of patellar tendonitis a couple years ago from too many of these falls. And for me, when I boulder, which I do boulder and enjoy, I like to climb up and climb down as much as possible. I think it's fun to challenge yourself to go down the same route that you went up, so the same color. But usually most gyms have some safety holds to get down safely or get down pretty far where the fall is pretty minimal. Some other pros of bouldering to think about is you could do it on your own. So if you don't have a lot of time and you're just looking to get out to the gym and have some fun, get some exercise, you could do that solo. Bouldering also tends to be much more puzzle focused. So, you're looking to solve a problem on the wall that's only, 10 or 12 feet long. So it's typically complicated for that entire problem. And I like this a lot. I think in terms of wakeboarding, it makes me think of riding cable when you're trying to figure out like the different transfers from different, it's all angles and stuff. Well, with a rock climbing problem, there's some similarities there as well. So I think that's pretty cool. So another kind of climbing that you're going to see that's probably the most recognized, widely known type of climbing is what's called sport climbing or top rope. And this is going to be people up on the wall. They're climbing up a much taller wall, 40, 50, 60 feet, and they are tied into a rope. And that rope goes up and then down to a partner who is belaying or handling the other side of the rope to make sure that that person, if they fall off the wall, is not going to fall at all, not get hurt. And sport climbing's pretty awesome too. When you're going up a wall that is 50, 60 feet tall, there's a lot of endurance involved. It's really going to pump out your forearms if you keep going. Typically on that wall, there'll be a couple problems to solve on the way up instead of one problem typically in a boulder. I'd say overall, it's a little less puzzle oriented and just a little bit more endurance oriented going up the sport climbing wall. And one thing I like about this a lot is as you're going up the wall, if you do fall, you usually only fall either nothing if the rope's tight or 6 inches. You're never hitting the ground. So if you do have any knee issues, I personally think sport climbing is much safer than bouldering, even though it does require a partner and it does require more gear because the sport climb, as I said, you're tied in. So you're going to need some kind of harness and you're going to tie in through your hard points here to the rope. You don't need a rope. Most gyms are going to supply the rope for you unless you get into lead climbing, which I'm not going to talk about in this video, but that's a more advanced form of rope climbing. And you're going to need your shoes. And then you're also going to need a belay device. So this is called a gree-gree. It's just a more advanced more safety-minded belay device. Some gyms will require you to actually invest in one of these, and these are like $150. There are cheaper belay devices as well, but again, not all gyms allow them because basically this is designed such that if your belay, your partner, were to get knocked out or something, this has some auto-locking mechanisms for safety. And then last but not least, I mean, you probably need this for bouldering too, some kind of bag to hold some chalk because you're going to put chalk on your hands just to get a little extra grip when something's difficult. So that is sport climbing. Again, the negative there is you need a partner, so you need to coordinate, but that's kind of like wakeboarding too, right? At least on the boat, you always need a driver at least and probably a spot or two. But really my favorite form of climbing at the climbing gym, which is not available at all gyms, but at some, is going to be the auto belay version of sport climbing. So auto belay, you don't need a partner. Basically, your rope is tied into this device at the top of the wall that's pulling up, and it's not even a rope. It's more like a seatbelt ribbon type material. It's pulling that in, and then when you fall, it catches almost like a seatbelt, but then slowly releases and drops you down. So that way you can get in, get a bunch of endurance runs in, climb a bunch. You can get to the gym when maybe you don't have a friend or a partner that wants to go with you. You can do this solo, and you don't have to worry about hurting your knees from impact. So yeah, those are the three kinds of climbing I like to do. There's also lead climbing. We're actually bringing the rope up the wall with you, but I think if you get really into climbing, that could be a lot of fun as well. But for a beginner, I wouldn't worry about that for now. Now, why do I think that this is great for wakeboarding? I've already covered a little bit, but it's a lot of the same muscles, tons of grip strength, forearms, back, overall just core body fitness here. Other than that, I think the problem solving is interesting from like a puzzle perspective. I think wakeboarding has a lot of problems to solve, especially on cable. But with that said, give rock climbing a chance, especially if you live somewhere with good gyms. Out here in Utah, we are very lucky to have many good climbing gyms, bouldering and sport, and a mix of both. Let me know in the comments, is there anything you like to do to cross-train in the winter? Maybe it's a specific set of exercises at the gym. Maybe it's another activity. I do think I'm going to cover some more topics this way because for me, it's really climbing, indoor climbing, snowboarding, and going to the regular gym, and then doing some flexibility yoga type stuff at home. That's how I make it through the winter when I'm being my best self, so that I can have my best season when it warms up and the lakes melt and we get out there and have some fun. All right, we'll catch you later. Bye.